Hey everybody, thank you so much for joining the Demystifying Money podcast. I'm your host, Misty Lynch, and today I'm joined by Katie Pulsifer. She's a master certified life coach, mentor, and founder of Katie Pulsifer Coaching and the Golden Coaching Certification. So for 13 years, she's supported visionary women who felt they've built a beautiful life, but sensed that there's something next, maybe something more aligned, something more meaningful and financially empowered waiting for them. So I'm excited to talk with Katie today just to see kind of her thoughts on, if you're a woman and you're listening or man listening too. There's a lot of times when we feel these things and, everything is perfect, everything is beautiful and looks good, but maybe you feel like there's something missing. Or maybe you've heard, can't you just be happy? So for you listening, if you have had these thoughts and are curious about how to kind of get to the bottom of what's happening and what's going on and to find some more meaning and happiness in your life, today's episode should be very helpful for you. So thank you, Katie, so much for joining me today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
This episode of Demystifying Money with Misty Lynch is proudly sponsored by Soundview Financial Advisors. Visit www.soundviewfinancialadvisors.com to learn more.
So we both went through the same life coach training school, which I was a big fan of. And when I started it, it was really because of listening to other coaches, other podcasts, that it really started to help me build some skills and some of my own tools to do things like leave corporate, adjust to being a mother, all of these things that it was so helpful for. But what was your journey? How did you move into coaching and what led you to create your own business and methodology in it?
Well, I found a coach back in 2012 when my first marriage was unraveling, and we had already been married at 17 years at that point, and I was convinced it was going to be the one forever. And that was not the case. And after a couple of years in therapy, trying to make sense of what had happened and where to go next, coaching really arrived in my life at that moment and helped me answer the question, where to go next. Therapy gave me so much understanding of patterns and behaviors and what got me to that point. Coaching took me from that moment and helped me see, oh, I get to create my own future. Mm-hmm. That literally had never occurred to me in my early 40s that I was responsible because I just kind of made whatever came my way work. I also, at that time, left a corporate job in New England that I had had for 13 years. And so it was just this massive moment of transformation. And coaching just helped me support myself through those big and very scary hurdles. I'm not going to minimize them in any way, but it just helped me understand myself more. I then wanted to study coaching and become a coach. And I worked at the school that you and I went to for 5 years, training coaches, and have been out on my own for a few years since then. And based on everything I see happening in our world, how big problems and small personal problems get us, I just am out here wanting to help people understand how they think, why they feel what they feel, why they do what they do, so they can live with more intention and purpose. So I'm trying to make a difference every day in this work.
I think that's so important because you mentioned like some of the things that you lived through and how therapy helped you in some ways. And coaching, I feel like some of these skills and some of these tools, they're not ones that we've ever learned before.
Yes.
Really, because a lot of us feel like you said, like, I didn't feel like I was in charge of my future. Like you are told by your teachers what to think and study, your job, all these things where you're kind of getting directions and being told what to do next. And then some point you get in your life where no one is telling you what you need to be doing anymore, what you should do. And you're in charge of that. And for some people, it's uncomfortable. You want to say, just somebody tell me what to do next, please. Like, I want the answer sheet. This is really hard. There's too many choices. So I love that you're helping people kind of work through that because it was helpful for you. And I think once you see how it helps you, it's easier to kind of want to go out and share it. with more people and give them help. So when you started working with high achieving women in midlife, what were some patterns that you've noticed around things like money and mindset when it comes to them trying to figure out what's next in their life?
Oh, it's rooted in absolutely everything that you just said. A lot of the way that we are socialized is to outsource expertise to others. Often it's men for lots of historical reasons,
Yeah.
but it's even our parents, our bosses, our um, people that we respect and admire. We assume sometimes correctly and sometimes not that people outside of us have better information, have more answers, are more qualified. So we're not used to tapping in always to ourselves and what we know, what we want, what matters to us, and build from there. We often also know way more than we will give ourselves credit for. At least I will speak to that myself.
Yeah.
Like sometimes I am quick to dismiss my gut or my intuition when it really is trying to get my attention so that I follow through on what matters most to me. So this often is what comes up in coaching sessions one-on-one. And it manifests in women maybe being hesitant to invest in themselves if they have a business idea, or they want to write a book, or they want to start a passion project. But there's some tentativeness or some fear about what will go wrong, what will people think? I've never done it before. And those thoughts often then just become the reason to not move forward, which is kind of heartbreaking. I'm sure you see it too in your work to see someone who has a dream or an idea like tamp it down so quickly.
Yeah, and I've noticed that a lot of times when they have these dreams and ideas, it might not be anybody else saying like, no, that's a bad idea, don't do it. It's usually they're their harshest critic. It's
Yes,
them that are saying, oh, but and it's like, who's everybody? What is this
right.
for? Like, what, where is, and like, they've just dismissed, like, yeah, no one's gonna, this isn't gonna work out. And I think that it does keep people from taking chances, taking some, risks, or actually finding something that they really do enjoy.
Mm.
Because one thing I've noticed with some people is like, when I ask, like, what's the worst that could happen, they describe their life today. Well, I could go back
Yes,
and get a corporate job. Well, I
yes,
could go
you're
do
right.
this. And that is what they're choosing every day. And I don't think that people realize that.
No,
Sometimes the worst case scenario is what they're choosing. And
yeah.
so that, obviously was tough. When I left corporate, you've left a long career in corporate too. You have a nice paycheck, you have benefits. Like it's kind of,
Mm-hmm.
it is scary, but also I've seen a lot of people where it's worked out really well for them.
Mm-hmm.
But it's
Mm-hmm.
easy to not take a chance. So I think that's really important that you're working on that type of those thoughts and in helping people find some clarity around that because there are some people, who, like we mentioned earlier, that have built a beautiful life. Maybe they have the cars and the house and the kids and the jobs,
Mm-hmm.
but they don't feel happy. They
Yeah.
feel discontent. How have you started to help those people who actually feel bad about feeling bad?
Oh, yes, I know. I had a client say this to me just last week. I'm so sick of feeling grateful and disappointed at the same time.
Mhm.
And the paradox of that can be really painful of like, I'm supposed to be, and that's usually the voice behind the thought, I'm sick and tired of being grateful and disappointed at the same time.
Mhm.
It's like I'm supposed to feel grateful for everything I've achieved. I have so much more than everyone else. That's such a beautiful, well-intended way to live. But if something isn't quite right, and often if we are saying no to ourselves because we're saying yes to kids, we're saying yes to spouse, we're saying yes to aging parents, we're saying yes to a boss, we find ourselves really low on the priority list, and that disappointment becomes unbearable.
Yeah.
So we work through, usually it's okay to feel grateful and to feel disappointed. It's okay to have both of those things happening at the same time. You're
Yeah.
not supposed to be in one or the other. And I teach a lot about how to hold that paradox and not make it a problem, and then start to pursue and chip away at that disappointment in service to uncovering what it is they want to do.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. I was watching a show recently, I think it was Task, where this young girl, she was adopted, and she said something about like how she was so tired of like the only feeling she was allowed to feel was grateful when she had all of
Mm,
these other emotions and all of these other thoughts. And I was
mm,
thinking about that because you're
mm.
right. So, and there's so many situations where maybe we do have, maybe nothing is wrong, or you see people suffering, or you see all of these other things, and we are surrounded by like all the news and things that we see, that we might start to feel like the only thing
Yeah.
we are allowed
Yes.
is gratitude, which is
Yes.
super important to hold, but also, like you said, it can coexist with lots of other feelings that
Right.
are
And
also true.
yes, and it's wonderful, but it's not wonderful if it means that we're self-silencing
Hmm.
and suppressing parts of us that are wanting to grow, expand, contribute, try something new, change our role, put ourselves out there in a new way, start something. And so yeah, so it's important that to introduce into our language both and. It doesn't have
Hmm.
to be either or. We are complex, nuanced beings, and we're worth understanding. So,
Yeah, definitely. I'm curious your thoughts on this, and I'm 44, so I will admit, like I am starting to see um, all of these articles and things in my news feed for like perimenopause and stuff. And I feel like there's a lot of women that feel really angry, or they feel a lot of these feelings that we've mentioned.
yes,
And
yes.
now it's even marketed down to people in their like 30, like wait, it's
Mhm.
all over the place. And it's like, are we looking for an excuse to feel angry? Like, so we could say, oh yeah, it's that, it's not me, and like start to push the
Mm,
blame and push the, those feelings aside, because I've heard people say that about certain things they've done or felt, and they like have this like excuse. And where I'm wondering though, like, is this just another thing for women to outsource it to, instead of like kind of starting to take into account their own feelings as valid and real, and ones we should pay attention to, versus, I know there are hormonal change. I totally understand this, but I'm just curious because I'm seeing this in so many ways as like, another, it almost seems like they're not paying attention to their real feelings and thoughts. It's just dismissive in some ways. So I was just curious your thoughts on that, or if that's something you've
yeah.
seen and worked through, because I know there are true, real changes. Um, but it seems like it's trending a bit now. I'm just curious your
Well, yeah, that's an interesting way to look at it. I mean, I think the opportunity that is available to all of us is to want to be curious, more curious about ourselves.
Mhm.
That is my wish for women, is to be more curious, and instead of perhaps layering on blanket statements, this must equal that, therefore,
Mhm.
and or any kind of one size fits all. It's I'm a human being with thousands of thoughts in my brain and thousands of emotions coursing through my body. I want to understand what I think and what I feel because it influences everything I do in the world. That's interesting to me. There's also the biology of perimenopause and menopause that really impacts us on a physical level. And these two things come colliding together.
Right.
There's also what's going on in the world and what's
Mhm.
going on in our own families. And so all of it is irrelevant, all of it is relevant. But I agree with you so much on the point of we have, as humans, the opportunity to be in our own agency about how we want to interpret all of that and connect it and what we want to make it mean.
Yeah. No, and I think in some situations, and I feel like at points in my career, in my whole life, like there's been men who have just the same amount of emotions, the same amount,
Yes,
and we see this
yes,
online too, where we think like, really, if a woman was, president or something, would they be too emotional? When we see like what's happening in the world, like men are just as, but that was always oh, you must be this, or oh, you're this age,
yeah,
so now you're, and it's just to me like, I feel like women have always had it where it's been easy to dismiss their thoughts and feelings as crazy or
Yes.
irrational or this. And I feel like we all have, you know, agency, like you said, over parts of it. I mean, but it's so important to like notice those things and say like, hey, do I need to talk to somebody about this? Would I benefit from having a
Mm.
coach? Because maybe you don't like how you feel, but I feel like we've just been like, okay, I guess you just have to deal with it.
Right,
Just
right, right.
take it. And
Yeah.
I see that, yeah, some of the marketing and stuff that I've seen, and I'm just like, I feel like there's more to this piece that's just been left alone for so
Mm-hmm.
long. And
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
no, it's just when there's like money to be involved or to be made, it seems like, oh, maybe
Oh,
that will
yes.
you. And
And we
interesting.
love a simple solution,
You.
right? We love a quick fix.
Mm-hmm.
So we want a quick fix. Marketers know we want a quick fix. So however it can get distilled down as quickly and as simply as possible so that the gap can be shortened between the product and the purchase.
Yeah.
That's what everyone's going for. And there's so much complexity in between. There's so
Mm-hmm.
many factors.
Yeah.
And I know you saw this when you were studying life coaching as well, because we're not trained to understand our mindset, because we're not trained to have a relationship with our emotions, which may sound a little funny to people,
Mm-hmm.
but because we don't learn that, we will do whatever it takes to get rid of the emotions that don't feel good.
Mm-hmm.
That's where we search and buy the quick fixes,
Mm-hmm.
and it delays the problem we're trying to solve.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I'm sure you see it all the time, spending money to feel better,
Mhm.
right?
Yes. Money is one of those areas where I do feel like, it gets blamed for a lot of things. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
like I always see that like divorce, like money is one of the leading causes of divorce. And I don't believe that. I feel like communication and a lot of fights around money. Money's kind of a scapegoat because like you wonder, like, if you had more money, would you love this person more? Most
Yeah.
situations, no. It's just maybe that's causing stress and tension. And I do understand that there are financial things, but I think a lot of times it's really the way we communicate, expressing ourselves, making sure that our partner knows how we're feeling. And like I feel like money is not necessarily alone the factor where like hitting the lottery would solve all the problems. But
Oh,
it
absolutely
is
not. Because
it
what
is
we do with the
usually the problem.
Right, right. Again, an oversimplification, but how we relate to our money, what we do with our money, how we treat our money is all a product of how we think and feel. So
Hmm.
if we don't understand how we think and feel, then having money, making money, saving money is harder, because what we think and what we feel, as you know, determines how much money we have.
Right. And if emotions weren't involved, everybody would be saving 10% of their income from the day they get a job, and we would spend like less than we make, and everybody would do exactly the right thing. It's the same with health and food and nutrition. Like we
Yes,
all
of course.
know, but like there's a lot of things that, when we spend money, when we overspend, when we underspend, when we go into debt, when we, judge other people. Like I feel like there's so many things that money kind of comes into. But when you're talking with people, because I know specifically Gen X, our age group, like there's a lot of competing goals. There's a lot of things that are
Mm.
demanding our attention
Oh,
and
yes.
our money, our children, sometimes our parents, our own debt, our own lives. How do you help people if they come to you and they feel like, you know, money is their problem and it's what's stressing them out, even if they are from the outside making enough to come talk to a coach?
Yeah, well, it often comes up, even for people who have plenty of it. There's a fear of losing it. There's a fear of not having enough in the future. There's a fear of it disappearing and going away. They're one wrong decision
Mm-hmm.
away from it being gone. And so it often comes up in coaching sessions. And so, I mean, really teaching people, like you just said, it's no money in and of itself is this thing,
Mm-hmm.
and our relationship with money comes from the way that we think about it. And so really teaching the importance of our thoughts and how our thoughts create our feelings and how our feelings drive out all of our behavior. Are we pulling and holding money close because our thoughts are very scarcity or lack based, and we're not allowing our money to grow? We're not stepping into new opportunities because we're so afraid? Or are we having thoughts that create abundance and generosity, and there's plenty, and I will always be able to take care of myself, which interestingly causes money to flourish and
Yes,
grow.
I agree.
So it's often really fun work to dig into within a coaching session. It's unpacking learned beliefs, often inherited beliefs from family or from society, and helping clients develop new beliefs and a new way to have a relationship with their money while working with someone like you who
Right.
helps them make smart decisions.
Yeah, and I think that that's something a lot of times when I meet with people, there's a lot of similarities and differences, of course, with all of my clients, but it's similar, where some people they could figure this out. They don't, it's just like anything else you might outsource.
Yes.
It's if you don't enjoy this and you don't want to do the research and the time, sometimes having somebody do things for you makes a lot of sense. But there are some people that have some big fears, and we have to look out. And sometimes it's just looking at reports and charts, being like, this is how much you'd have to spend to run out of money by age 100, and they're
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, because they're just thinking about you know maybe the worst case scenario,
Yes.
or it's just hard to kind of picture that when you're in the middle of it, so it can be really important to take a step back. But though, did you have any thoughts or feelings about money that you had to work through before you started your own business?
Oh my gosh, yes. And I'm still working through them. And, I've dabbled in entrepreneurship before in my life unsuccessfully. So I was really nervous about going all in on my own coaching business almost 2 years ago now. I had a very amazing job at the school that we both trained at, and and I was there for 5 years. I thought I'd be there forever. That position changed and went away as the company changed. And so I had this thought I did not get the entrepreneurial gene, because my past evidence showed that things I had started, I didn't see through and they didn't work. So that thought was with me when I lost my job of 5 years. That was a very, very nice job in terms of checking all the financial boxes. And I knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur, but I knew I would not be a successful entrepreneur with that thought. So not only did I do all the things that you do when you set up a business, I went to work and I got coached on that thought, so I would change my mind about myself before I even had any
Mhm.
evidence that my business would succeed. And if I hadn't, I mean, setting up the business, LLC, bank accounts, credit cards, finding clients, important. But if I hadn't taken care of that thought,
Mhm.
none of that other stuff would have mattered. That's how significant thought work can be
Yes.
to tackle. So that was the one that I worked on. And here I am, year 2 of business, and I doubled my revenue in year 2 from year
It's
1.
amazing. It's amazing. It's so funny because I like started getting coaching because I had the opposite thought. I was born with the entrepreneurial bug. Like that was, and felt like being in corporate, I felt like a sellout every time. And I was
Mhm.
here doing this, making good money, but I didn't feel like I had any real impact. I felt completely
Yeah.
replaceable. And I felt like, and I think it's the same thing though, because we all have these thoughts wherever they come from
Yeah.
that we just feel are
They're so
true
true.
and
Yes.
real, even though they're completely optional. They're not true. And it's just funny because I had these feelings like I am not where I should be. And
Hmm.
that feeling where you're not where you want to be, or you're not where you think you should be all the time. And I think this is another thing that I hear from clients, I'm sure you do as well, where they're at work and they feel like they should be home. They're here and and
Yes,
that
yes.
feeling that I'm I'm in the wrong place at the wrong time. constantly
Right.
is so difficult. But
It's so,
I think that having that feeling, working through those thoughts can be so helpful so that you can actually be present where you are doing what you're doing at that time and then making some space
right.
in your life to do the other things and feeling like you can start to balance that out a little bit more because I had that at corporate where I felt like I should be home. When I was home, I was thinking about work and I
Mm,
needed coaching helped me so much with those. I
hmm.
just felt awful all the time.
Oh, absolutely. Now, having that thought, unlike you, when I was working at the life coach school and I had the thought I didn't get the entrepreneurial gene, that thought kept me in my job. That was an amazing thought to
Mhm.
have there because then I was like, I'm where I belong. I'm
You're
in the
right where you
right
should be.
place. This is amazing.
Yeah.
So it's so fascinating that, I call it when we're out of alignment.
Yeah.
So like our brain has this story going on. I shouldn't be here. I shouldn't be here. I should be home. I should be mothering. I should be with the kids when they get off the bus, or I should be taking better care of my parent,
Mhm.
all of that, but that we're physically doing something different. That misalignment is so distracting. We can't do anything well
No.
because our body is in the job, but our brain is
Mhm.
elsewhere.
Yeah.
So coaching can really help get you
Hmm.
into alignment in the situation you're in for however long you want to be in it. It doesn't mean you have to stay, but at least you can get your brain on board.
Yes, no, and it's so true. And I feel like now, like releasing that thought doesn't mean I'm going to be an entrepreneur. If I went back to a corporate, I would be okay with that. Like there is no
Hmm.
correct
Right. No,
feeling,
no.
or I am supposed to be here because then those people who lose their jobs, like you mentioned, like it's devastating. Like, no, that was the marriage for me. That was the job for me. And like that feeling
Hmm.
that we have more control over everything than we really do. It can be so,
Yes.
like you said, distracting and difficult. So I think that it's just an interesting thing to think about. And I remember when I started to use like time blocking and things like that to feel
Uh-huh.
like because I remember when my kid was little, like my daughter liked to at like 2 o'clock, she wanted to like snuggle on the couch and watch something.
Mm.
And I just blocked that into my schedule. So I wasn't like, oh my God, it's 2 o'clock. Those are normal business hours.
Oh, that's
And I
so
just
genius.
did it
Yes.
and I didn't feel like I should be anywhere else. And it was 1 hour.
Right.
But it was
Right.
like,
Right.
it was, it worked. It worked for me. Like, and so starting to think of like just starting to feel better where you are. Sometimes it just involves a little bit of like boundaries and saying, this is what I want to do, this is what I need to do. But boundaries can be really tough, especially when we have a
Yeah.
lot of people that think that you should do exactly what they want you to do when they want it. So, how
Right.
do you help people who have maybe they are caretakers at this point for,
Mm.
parents or children or, spouses and they're working? Like, how do you help them kind of maybe develop some boundaries if they feel like they are not in control of their time?
Well, I think you've hit on it already, which is uncovering these often unspoken rules that we've written that we maybe have inherited, or we see our neighbor does it this particular way, so that must be the right way, or mom did it this way, so therefore I should do it this way. Um, so really investigating and interrogating these rules, like, okay, in your example, that you would maybe have to stay working from 2 to 3 because those are quote
Mhm.
unquote work hours. Somewhere along the line, you made up that rule.
Yes.
Is that a rule? Is that rule worth keeping? What do you sacrifice by
Mhm.
keeping that rule? What do you gain by keeping that rule? And so then really just then seeing that, oh, that's something that you maybe get to question and experiment breaking. So fun to break rules
Mhm.
in midlife, so fun to break rules. And and so that's a lot of the work. And then from there, you can decide, okay, I do want a boundary two
Mhm.
to three to snuggle on the couch with my kid. That is so important. That is protected boundary time. That is so worth it. I know why I'm making that decision.
Yeah.
And often we don't know why we do things
Mm-mm.
because we just think we're supposed to,
I'm
or
supposed
everyone else does it. But
Yeah.
until we really ask and check in with what we want and are willing to risk and experiment trying it, we don't know. So
Yeah.
that's where we start.
No, and I think that that's something a lot of people are, even post COVID where like everyone came home because before a lot of people were like, these are my rules. I am here from
Oh,
this time to
yes.
this time, and that is what my
Yes.
boss says. And now, maybe some people had more flexibility and they're being told, no, you got to do this. And they're like, but I liked this. I liked going to the gym at 7:30 and being able to work, like all of these things. So I feel like people have
Hmm.
maybe gotten a little bit more. They've had to control their time differently, or maybe they've had a completely different schedule. So I do feel like some people, they just never really questioned pushing any rules or looking at things differently besides this is what I have always done. This is what I'm supposed to do.
Right. And especially for us Gen Xers, I think we often fall into the category of being rule followers and being the ones that really bought the vision and the dream of doing it all and having it all. And the only way to do that is to have very strict rules about how to get it all done. And yet you reach this point in midlife and you start reevaluating.
Mhm.
COVID comes along, different things are occurring in our country that make us question what we've always done and why we've done it that way. And so it's it's a good, healthy disruption to our patterns and a good opportunity to ask ourselves is, would I choose this again? Would I choose to make this same decision, have this same rule, work this same way, block my time? Or would I, if given the opportunity, would I choose something different?
Yeah, it is a challenge, and you're right. I think a lot of times, and I'll even see things like little videos on on TikTok or Instagram about like boomers, Gen X,
Yeah.
millennials, and where like it's just like the Gen X is like working through lunch, drinking a Diet Coke, like just getting everything done. And I feel like sometimes those things are silly, but I kind of get it. Like it's just
Yeah.
that's what we've had to do. We've been very like, you know, take care of yourself, get your work done and get your stuff done. And like it can be,
And be there for everyone else. Yes,
yeah.
yes.
And I want to talk because you mentioned that you work with coaches too, and I've talked to a lot of people that are creative, service-based businesses. And one thing I notice on the money side is sometimes they struggle with undervaluing themselves and underpricing
Mm,
their work.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And I think that a lot has to
Yep.
do with fear and thoughts and us being our own harshest critic. Everyone's going to say no, no one's going to work with you, you're going to eat cat food, all of those things. How do you help those business owners, especially women, when it comes to pricing their services and charging what they're worth or
Yeah,
they're infinitely valuable. I shouldn't say they're worth, but also like
yeah.
what's a reasonable fee? Like you got to live. Like what do we do here?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that there is some math involved and understanding the number to
Hmm.
hit, and then how many people would you need to work with to hit that number? Because what is this money expected to cover and pay for? So, for sure, there's some data and some math involved. I personally have moved away from this whole idea of charging your worth. I know you didn't mean to say
Yeah.
that when,
No, you know what I
but
mean? Like
yeah, I
enough.
do know what
Like
you mean. But
what?
there
Like
is a lot of that out there
yeah.
of just like, charge your worth, you're
Yeah.
amazing. And the sentiment might be lovely, but that's really inaccessible for
Hmm.
people. So I love now advising people and having conversations with the coaches I work with around, what number can your nervous system handle?
I like that.
What can you say that you charge for your services for now, where your nervous system is going to stay regulated,
Mhm.
meaning you are not going to get so nervous that you fumble your pitch, that you are not going to want to cancel it the night before because you didn't get any sleep. Um, it's really thinking and knowing that your pricing is temporary.
Yeah.
You just need to pick a price to start and put your offer in the world. And what number can come out of your mouth that your nervous system is like, I can say that without
Yeah.
freaking out.
Without freaking out and also without feeling ripped off because
Yeah.
that's something to pay attention to as well because I
Yes.
think some of us know what's too little.
Yes, we do.
And I think you should feel slightly sick when you price your service, like a little uncomfortable. Because if it's like, oh yeah, this is like the best deal ever, like it's probably a little low in my opinion.
Yeah,
But
I think there's probably what you're naming is a range of
yeah,
like I won't go below this number.
yeah.
My nervous system can't handle going
Mhm.
above this
Yes.
number. What
Right.
does the data tell me I need, and does
Mhm.
it fall into that range? And
Yeah.
then sometimes it is about coaching yourself into
Mhm. Yeah.
belief in that number.
Yeah.
That's real work to be done too.
Yeah, no, definitely. It is, it's so important. I think all of us, and I think if you haven't looked at your prices in a while or you're afraid like, oh, there's always a reason not to revisit it. Money's hard for people. There's a lot of, people are losing, there's the economy. Meanwhile, like the stock market is rolling on and there's a lot of people that still have jobs and are getting raises and, just about every other service that you might have has probably gone up in price a little bit because of inflation and things
Yes.
like that. So it is important to revisit it. And
Mm.
yeah, if you charge too low and you feel like, oh, I'm gonna have to take on so many more clients, that's not gonna give that person the best service. It's really not
No, no.
because you're going to feel frustrated from the start.
Hmm.
And it's kind
Hmm.
of because you decided to give them a break or a deal they didn't even
Yeah,
maybe ask for. So,
right. And that usually is because of a lack of belief issue,
hmm
right? Is as soon as we start discounting our numbers, it's when we're doubting our services or we're doubting we can find the person that will pay for the service we have at the price we charge.
yeah. And you emphasize whole person coaching, not just
Mhm.
these surface fixes. And when it comes to, maybe not just money, but business, how do you integrate those mindset shifts to kind of help people have like a practical strategy? Like you mentioned the numbers and the math and the research and things like that. But how do you help with the whole person coaching if people come to you and say, "This is the problem. I should make more money," or "I have a boss that I hate." Like, how do you kind of help look at everything from a different, larger perspective?
Yeah, so I think what I mean by whole person is it isn't necessarily always a top-down
Hmm.
solution or process, meaning what are you thinking? And then let's just get in and do all mindset work. I like to incorporate what's your body telling you, what's your energy around this, what is your gut and your intuition and your heart. Like it's making sure that as we're trying to diagnose the problem, we're bringing in all aspects of ourselves to answer the questions. So it's not just the brain.
Hmm.
Sometimes the brain, that's where the answer lives. But for many of us, the answer is also in our gut or in our heart. Like we know what we want, but the brain talks us out of what we want.
Right. Our brain's
Or
trying to keep us alive.
trying to keep us safe and protected and alive. So really coming at a problem
Mhm.
and understanding why it's there and what to do about it by incorporating and bringing all parts of us into the conversation. It
Yeah.
can be weird at first, for people who are very heady and used to intellectualizing everything and it's got to make sense on paper and it's got to be well thought out. I personally have a very strong bias for thinking and doing. I'm either thinking or I'm doing something, and then I'm thinking about what I just did. My weakness is feeling my feelings.
Mhm.
So even when I coach myself, I'm trying to be more deliberate of being connected to what I'm feeling about situations, how I'm feeling in different moments, and what my feelings can also share with me. So I find that with clients too, they're dominant in one area. So bringing the other parts of them into the conversation can be really helpful.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think that's a good point. I'm also somebody who is thinking and doing, and the feelings part, I would never say that I am like stuck in my own head or my feelings on anything. And where sometimes some coaching that I've gotten, they've been like, "When is the last time you cried?" I'm like, "I don't know." Maybe that's what I need. And it's interesting to kind of pay attention to all of it. And some
Yes,
people like feel really lousy all the time and like they're ignoring it and like it's in their body or there's something
yes,
that's truly like
yes,
I'll just
yes.
push through it. I'm just, I don't have time to get sick or to get well, and I think like no, we got to pay attention to everything. Um,
All of it. Yes.
and not, yeah,
Hmm.
like you said, try to just like, think or reason our way out of everything.
Hmm.
Sometimes
Hmm.
you just need to to step back and look at things. So super important. What is a piece of advice that you'd give to someone who knows that they want more, whether it's income or purpose or legacy or impact, but they feel kind of stuck with that how and when part of it? What would you say to that
Oh,
person?
yeah. So I think even just a first step is always just naming what they want. Even if they write it down in a journal and never show anybody and never speak it out loud, but to not deny the truth that is within them. I want this thing,
Hmm.
whatever it is. Write a book, start a business, create my passion project, whatever the thing is. Just tell yourself the truth. Don't dismiss it.
Hmm.
Because it just, I don't know. It's like when we ignore and we self-silence what we really want, if we do it in this one little area, we're likely to do it in lots of other areas too.
Hmm.
So start by telling yourself what you want. Not knowing how and not knowing when makes a ton of sense. That's okay. Those don't need to be solved immediately. With a little bit of courage, are you willing to tell someone else what you want? That would be step two.
Hmm.
And then are you willing to tell someone else? Are you just even willing to be with this thing that you want? Like carry it around with you. Imagine what it would be like if you had it. Visualize it coming true and working out. Once you've spent a little time with it, then you can get into the nuts and bolts of how. Often you'll need to do work maybe with a coach to uncover all the reasons why you can't do it,
Hmm.
all the hurdles, all the obstacles that are in your way. But an easy first place to start is always just by telling yourself the truth about what you really want.
Yeah. No, and I have several journals in my office that are filled with like, and I'll go back and look through them because I would write down all of these things that I wanted.
Yes.
And it's amazing back from when I was working before, like how many of them are true now and they've happened. And they were,
Yes.
but I feel like they happened first in my head and on paper.
Yes. Always.
Always.
Always. I
And I'm
find
not
that
much of
too.
a journaler. I like bullet point, like I have like my lists and things like that of things. It doesn't, you could do whatever it is that you do. But I feel like if it's out there, out of your brain, and like even if it's just, I wanted to get like this like cabin in Vermont and I had like pictures of it. I was looking at a particular and I ended up like it went off the mark. Like I have the house next to it and I could see it. Like the one that I was picturing in my head, like I was close. It wasn't
Wow.
exactly it,
Yeah.
but like,
Yes.
and it took, once I decided this was something I wanted, like, then it took finding out, okay, what are the property, like, what is this going to entail? Having a rental, all of these different things that afterwards, but
Hmm.
like the first step was like identifying, like, yeah, that's a place, that's the town. Like,
Yes.
and it took a while. It was not instant,
Mm.
but it was just one of those things that I look back now and I'm like, oh, yeah, I
You
can
made
go
it
there next week.
happen. Yeah, because your brain knew what to focus on.
Yeah.
When we don't tell ourselves, meaning telling our brain what matters to us, it doesn't know how to filter all of the
No, doesn't
information
filter the
coming
rest
our
out.
way. But as soon as you said cabin in Vermont,
Yeah.
the brain is like, we're looking for a cabin in
Yeah.
Vermont. We've got to find a cabin in
We've got it.
Vermont.
All right. Yeah. Like,
Where's that
what are we?
cabin in
Yeah. Where
Vermont?
is
That's
it?
what.
Yeah. It's just funny because I think it's just something I've learned through, through coaching and through that is really, but it is really effective, which is a
It
strange thing,
is.
It's
It
really
works
works.
every time.
Yeah.
It does. It works. Whatever we put our brain onto, like whatever we say, pay attention to this, it just can't help itself.
Mhm.
It will. And
Yeah.
it will filter for it.
Hmm.
But when we're vague and wishy-washy and oh, I can't have that and that's not for me and I don't get to decide and we'll see what everyone else wants
Hmm.
first. It all
Right.
sounds so great, but the thing you want will never emerge.
Right.
So there's a kind of courage that's required in
Mhm.
saying, no, I want the cabin in Vermont.
Like I love where
I
I'm
have,
here, but I want this. And it's okay
yeah.
to want something that's not, that's actually for me. And that, it's funny because a lot of us, we find the money for childcare, we find the money for the hockey gear, we find the money for everything else. And I'm like, well, let's just figure out what we want. And some people, yeah, when they don't know, usually there's a little bit more work that can be done, I think, to help
Yes.
that. And then I think that can go a long way to start feeling that, you know, that you're not just, lost or, helping everybody else all the time without focusing. Like, yeah, you can just kind of think a little differently and give
Yes.
that a try. How can people find you if they want to learn more about your coaching practices or anything, or just follow you to get more advice?
Oh, yeah. Thank you. My website is katiepulsifercoaching.com. I have information there about private coaching. I also have a really nice free guide that you can download about figuring out what you want next. So very in line with what we've been talking about. I'm on Substack. I write a newsletter over there every week, really covering a lot of the topics that you and I have shared today. I'm on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, those places. I
All right.
hang out there occasionally. I'm not,
Yeah. If you want to be in control of your thoughts, it's not always the best place to spend too much time.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. So
but yes, no, that's great. And yeah, Substack, I don't know, like I feel like that's it's a great resource for people, to find those newsletters because when it comes to this work, sometimes it could just be one thing that you read or hear that kind
I
of makes you
know.
think a little bit differently and dig a
Yes.
little bit deeper. And sometimes that is, what, people like Katie are putting out in their newsletters. They're giving this information for free. It doesn't cost anything to change how you're thinking or to examine your thoughts. So it's such a powerful tool that I think everybody should try to incorporate in their
Mm,
lives and start and hopefully feeling a little bit better about, about life these days. So thank you so much, Katie, for joining me. If you're interested in listening to more episodes of the podcast or finding a copy of my book, Demystifying Money, where I talk all about my coaching journey and how it's gotten me where I am, please head over to mistylynch.com. I'd love to hear from you. If you like this episode, please like and subscribe and share it, and we'll talk again next week. Don't forget to share with friends and family, and together let's demystify the world of money. Knowledge is the key to financial empowerment.